Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Hardam Tripathi from Trip Law. Today I'm going to be speaking with you about E-2 visas and specifically extending an E-2 visa and what is required during that process. So usually when you have an E-2 visa, you want to extend it after the time period allotted to you does expire. And in order to do that, you have to provide to the government certain documents that are going to be very important to that extension request that you do provide to the State Department. So first and foremost, what you would need is you would need a G28, which is when you have an attorney, your attorney of record has to follow what is called a G28 form, which ultimately shows that your appearance as an attorney for that specific person or that client. We would also have what's called a Form I-129, which is a petition for a non-immigrant worker. And that's also very important because that is your main petition that you do have to provide in order to do the extension. You also have to provide an e-supplement, which is a form that you can find online. It's basically a supplemental form that is attached with the actual I-129 form as well, and that goes through that application within your process. You're also going to have to provide the actual passport as well. So your copy of your passport, every page. You're definitely going to want to provide that. It's very important. And then you want to provide proof of ownership of your commercial enterprise or your business. So that could be like your charter, that could be your bylaws and minutes. You want to show stock certificates and the ledger. So all these things prove ownership of you as that e-immigrant visa holder, ultimately with your business. So these are very important documents. You're also going to need what's called a sales agreement, which is a very important piece of information that the government's going to look at. You also want to make sure you have an assignment of your lease actually provided in there, because leases are important to show that your business is still ongoing, it's running, you're leasing that specific area where your business is located. You want to also include floor plans for your property. That does provide extra insights to the government when they're looking at your business. You also want to provide what's called an SS4. It's an assignment of employer identification number from the IRS, and this is a form you can actually find online, and it's called an SS4 document, and that's basically that application for employer ID number. And that's something that we would help you fill out as well, and that you would provide to the government with your extension request. You also want to make sure that you have the city, county, and state issues kind of sorted out as it relates to business licenses or certificates, registration. These are all documents that we would also provide to the government, to the federal government, just to make sure that you do have these things in place. You also want to get a letter from a primary vendor that highlights the business. That's always very important. And you also want to provide your U.S. income tax returns for that specific business. It's very important that the income taxes are provided because that's what the government's going to look at to see the health of your business from a financial standpoint. You also want to make sure that you have quarterly federal returns for the employer and for the company that you're also providing to the government, and ultimately an organizational chart. This kind of shows exactly who is where within the company, and it does provide the government with an idea of the structure of your actual business and organization. And then you also want to provide a 5-year business plan. Business plans are the meat and potatoes of the case. They kind of are one of the most important forms that does highlight kind of what all it entails. So, ultimately your business. So that's going to be very important, the 5-year business plan. You also want the proof of initial inventory purchases. Those are very important because inventory does matter. They want to show, the government wants to see that you do have evidence of that. So you definitely want to provide the proof of your initial inventory purchases. Those are very important. You also want to provide proof that the investment funds come from a legal source. So this is going to be source of funds. So if for example you sold a rental property, or you sold some sort of asset that you had, you want to show where that money was coming from, and that paper trail is what the government's looking for here. You're also going to have your the CV, so basically your resume showing your background experiences, so they do match up with respect to your actual organization and your business, and the type of career you're in or the commercial enterprise you're managing. You also want to make sure that you have the degrees for yourself also listed, any credentials or certifications that you may have. These are all very important. You also want to provide the I-797. This is a very important form. These are kind of like the notices that you get from the government. You want to provide those along with the I-94, which is like your travel history. And then ultimately you want to make sure that if you have a spouse that you're also assisting, that the application for extension for that status also applies to your spouse, so he or she can have that derivative beneficiary status. And for that, you're also going to need an I-539 form along with that G-28 form completed and submitted to the government. And you also want to provide, passports, visas, I-94s for them as well, along with a marriage certificate, and if needed, have the translation done in English. That's very important as well. And then finally, you just want to make sure you have a copy of the petition and application to be submitted, to the Department of State's Consular Center. And then that's when they'll look at it and they'll see whether it'll get approved or not. And that's what we would do for you. We would want to put our best foot forward, make sure that we provide all the relevant documentations, because that is very important when it comes time to extend your E2 visa. So if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. The number here is 863-370-2427, or you can email us at info@trip-law.com, and we'd be more than happy to walk you through the E2 renewal process and ultimately, tell you exactly what you need to know in terms of timelines, processes, what documents to submit, all of this very important information that you are going to need to ultimately have a successful resolution with regard to your immigration matter. So hopefully this was a helpful nugget. We briefly discussed the E2 visa and what all documents that you need when you're trying to renew that E2 visa or ask for that extension from the State Department, from the U.S. government. So if you have any questions, definitely look forward to hearing from you, and best of luck with your E2 visa journey. Have a great day.